Hello, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Spritz.
This podcast is from a fan's perspective of the hit movie and musical Hairspray.
I'm Derek.
And I'm Mitch.
And this is
Behind the Spritz.
So in this episode, we wanted to introduce ourselves.
And describe how Hairspray has impacted us from when we first saw it, and how it's impacted our lives to this day.
So welcome, and because I'm the oldest, I believe I'll start. So I was first introduced to Hairspray in a sort of unexpected way. I was obsessed with comedy. I would go out of my way to find any sort of comedy on TV, and I became obsessed with Comedy Central, the channel Comedy Central.
How often did you watch that channel when you were a kid?
I mean, all the time. I mean, especially like during the summer, which is when I first got into Hairspray.
So like every free moment you had, you watched it.
Absolutely, yeah, and I would watch anything that was on there. And one summer when I was 10, wake up, time to watch Comedy Central, and the original Hairspray just happened to be on, and I sat there and I was transfixed by it. I had no idea what it was really. I had no idea who John Waters was, nothing about it. And I just kind of sat there staring at this movie. And I remember recognizing Ricki Lake because
by that point, Ricki Lake was known, like she was doing her talk show.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this was, so to put this into context, this was about a year before the show began on Broadway. So at this point,
as far as the public, would have been in 2001 then.
2001, exactly. As far as the public was concerned, this was the only version of Hairspray at this point.
Yes.
And it wasn't super well known. It was still sort of
right, because we know the Hairspray creator John Waters, that was his really only big mainstream movie he ever attempted. We all know his personality has been very interesting in films, I know. And like where he said like his career prior to Hairspray was basically more smaller movies and also movies that were on the fringe.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. This was his first mainstream film, and the films he made afterwards also, such as Cry Baby and Serial Mom, made their way into the more mainstream. But still, John Waters was, cult status.
Yes,
so many people weren't familiar with his work, and Hairspray was still sort of cult status at this point. But I did recognize Ricki Lake, like we mentioned, and yeah, I had seen her talk show, and I remember being so confused by what I was watching because it was so accurate.
Because you were 10 years old at the time, and knowing like being a kid, you don't have an understanding to that extent to like know like what the time period is or like the dance is.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't wrap my head around a period piece, I think. And I had recognized Jerry Stiller as well. I grew up watching Seinfeld and King of Queens and different things that he had done. So I knew who he was. I definitely didn't know who Divine was at that point. I knew who Colleen Fitzpatrick was, Vitamin C, but I didn't connect the dots to say, oh, that's Vitamin C.
Did you know who Debbie Harry was and Sonny Bono?
I don't think I did. Maybe Sonny Bono. I don't think I knew who Debbie Harry was, though, at that point. Blondie. I wasn't familiar with that at 10 years old, I don't think, with her or Blondie. But Sonny Bono, I think I did know who Sonny Bono was through Sonny and Cher and whatnot. But yeah, they were really the only ones I probably recognized. I don't think I knew who Ruth Brown was at that point. So it was very much like this 10-year-old sitting there trying to wrap his head around so many different things. And, while we said this was John Waters' most mainstream film, it's still a weird movie.
It does have that little like quirkiness.
Absolutely. And especially
realize that through some of the scenes in it as well.
Yeah, especially for a 10-year-old to be watching, and who, obviously I was not familiar with John's work before Hairspray. I've since seen all of his movies, including his original short films, but definitely not at 10 years old. But anyway, this was 2001, like we mentioned. And I, for years, continued to think about this movie, to obsess about this movie in a way that I don't think I could even understand. That it was almost as if, I always say, it's almost as if the universe was planting the seed for me to use later, because
So was the world like coming down on you saying like, here's this, go spread it around?
yes, exactly. So I did not see, I was familiar with it. I was aware that it was happening, but I did not make a trip to New York City to see it until 2007. So right before the movie musical adaptation with John Travolta and Queen Latifah. I didn't get to see it until right before that came out, about a month and a half prior.
Back when you were 10, watching the original movie for the first time, like, was there something like mesmerizing to you about it? Like the music, the scenes, and of course, being in Hairspray, the hair with how big it
Yeah,
was,
yeah. It was a little bit of everything. The thing I can still visualize myself sitting there watching this that was most mesmerizing was, like you said, the hair. For some reason, I was just
it was definitely
absolutely
big hair.
Yeah, and I, and also Divine's performance was mesmerizing to me, because I don't think I knew that Divine was a man playing a woman, but there was a little bit of a subversive aspect to his performance that even as a 10-year-old I was kind of seeing through, I think maybe subconsciously. I think overall the performances, the humor, definitely the music and the dancing was fascinating to me. But yeah, just that overall feeling of it was what I sort of grabbed onto, I think. And the fact that it was weird, and I've always been weird, and
I feel like everybody has a little weird scent in them, and has been weird at times. I know I have.
Yeah. I mean, I think the most interesting people are we're all weird. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I fully agree with the sentiment that there's no such thing as normal.
Right.
And it's the people that embrace their weirdness are the people that I end up gravitating towards. And John Waters is the king of that.
Oh yes, without a doubt.
And yeah, and so,
and in a good way too.
Absolutely, the best way. Yeah, so that was how the universe had planted that seed. But when I saw the show on Broadway, I had been struggling really, really a lot. I mean, my entire life, but especially in high school. High school's hard for everybody, right. I think.
Do this, do that. Like, who said this? Who said that?
Yeah, and I was struggling a lot with my anxiety and depression, and trying to grapple that and still function in high school, and make good grades and do all this. And I didn't really have anything that I could escape to. And then my parents and I were planning a trip to New York City in 2007. My parents were never musical fans. They had never really paid attention to Broadway or musicals. They always sort of thought they were cheesy. And I had some friends in high school that were really into musicals, and I was like,
so were they real big musical fanatics?
I would say, especially one of my friends, he was a big musical fan and really got me into classics like Grease and West Side Story and a bunch of different ones. And then I started going down that rabbit hole. And then I came back to Hairspray, that original movie that, again, I just kept obsessing about. But I don't think between that first time I watched it on TV and the time that I watched, or right before that time that I saw it on Broadway, I don't think I had ever rewatched it. But it was still something that just continued to be reminded about this for years.
When you saw it on Broadway, that's when it really dawned on you.
Well, it was a little bit before that. In 2006, is when it started to kind of be like, oh, wait, I remember this movie. And again, throughout the years, like 2002, 2003, like it was just like I was vaguely aware of the Broadway show at that point, but I don't think I had ever listened to the cast recording or anything at that point. But I just kept being reminded. I would see like a bottle of Hairspray, sitting on my sink and be like, oh yeah, I remember that movie, the movie that I saw when I was 10 on Comedy Central, or I would see Ricky Lake on her talk show and be like, oh yeah, she was in that movie. And like I said, it was like the universe, like, you're not quite ready for this yet, but when you need this the most, we're going to constantly keep reminding you of this. So then in 2006, I found out about that they were doing the movie,
that they were making it into a movie musical.
Yes. And because I was always a huge fan of, again, I was a huge comedy nerd, and being a kid growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, Amanda Bynes was the queen of comedy for kids at that point. And so I was a big fan of hers. And so she was sort of the reason I found out about this. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're remaking. Now, at this point, I don't think I really remembered if the original movie was a musical or not, or like what this was, or I was like, oh wait, they're remaking that movie that I saw when I was a kid. So then when I was planning this trip to New York and my friends, it was just all sort of happening at the same time, of like my friends getting me into musicals and feeling like it wasn't anything to be like ashamed of, or, growing up as a boy in a conservative small town, you are pressured to like things that boys should like and things. And so
going through school, it's always been like that. You need to like this, you need to watch this, you need to watch that.
Yeah.
But it's like this, let us decide for ourselves and let us decide what we like. I like what I like, you like what you like.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. We're always taught like boys like this, girls like this. So I sort of, for years, was like, I liked musicals, and I was, as a young age, I was introduced to musicals. But then when I reached like middle school era, I was just like, oh, I don't want anybody to know I like musicals, so I'm just not going to even pay attention to that until my friends in high school were like, I like musicals, hey, and I was like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a boy liking musicals. So I went down that rabbit hole, and then was learning about, oh, they're remaking this Hairspray and stuff. And then I found the original cast recording. The second Good Morning Baltimore began, that first drum beat, I was like, this is the best thing I've ever heard. It was like literally that fast. And then I always say, I was hooked from that first drum beat, and then by the time You Can't Stop the Beat happened, my head fell off. I was just like so blown away by this. And then when my parents and I were planning this trip, I begged them. I was like, I have to see Hairspray on Broadway, and they took me. My mom and I went. I was 16 years old, and my parents weren't quite ready for me to see a Broadway show by myself yet. So my mom was selected to go with me, because she was, again, not really super into musicals or anything, hadn't really seen much on stage. And I remember before we went, I had told her what it was about. And I remember I said, she goes, what's it about, a beauty shop? Hairspray is a beauty shop. I said, no, it's actually about a girl who gets on a dance show and wants to fight for integration during the 60s in Baltimore. And she's like, oh, okay. And we were going to see it. It was like the afternoon before, and my dad turned to me and he said, so are you excited for tonight to see the show? And I said, oh yes, I can't wait. And my mom goes, I don't know if I am yet. And I was like, I go, oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, everything. And she goes, I mean, is it funny at all? And I was like, yes, it's a comedy. And she goes, oh, well, I'm excited now. And she went to see it with me and fell in love with it immediately. It was magical. It was just like, I mean, the most euphoric I had ever felt. And again, was like, I was struggling with this anxiety and everything. And it was just like, to feel this sense of joy and euphoria watching this thing, it was just like, I want this feeling for the rest of my life. And that's sort of what really hooked me. And then I saw the movie multiple times in theaters, and then it snowballed from there. Do we want to turn to you now?
Absolutely.
And learn about how you got into Hairspray.
Now, I'm a bit younger than you, so it was in 2007, and that was the year the movie musical came out.
Yes.
I was 8 years old. I just finished second grade. And around that time, I started to get into like a more like musical fanatic, a little bit, but it wasn't up to that extent yet. And that year at my elementary school was the first year I participated in their theater club. And that year they did the production of The Wizard of the Mall, which is based off The Wizard of Oz. And I was in the chorus, and we sang the songs from Wiz, Ease on Down the Road and Brand New Day. And it was a lot of fun. And I was like, wow, this is great. So then it was in summer 2007, because that's when Hairspray came out.
Yeah, sure.
And my parents saw a commercial for the 2007 movie, and it was around, like I said, around that time I started to get a beat on, this musical stuff based on what my 8-year-old brain was thinking. And my mom immediately turned to my dad and said, I think Mitch might like this. Why don't we take him to the theater to go see it? And he said, all right. And they were both fans of musicals as well. They've seen musicals growing up. And they've also seen some on stage as well. And so like their thought, okay, let's take Mitch to see and like, let's see what he thinks about it. And so the day came, they told me we were going to the movies. And of course, being an 8-year-old kid, what 8-year-old kid wouldn't like not going to the movies. So like this, I'm like, we're going to the movies? Of course I'll come.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they got me tickets, but they didn't tell me what movie they were taking me to. So like I kept saying like, what is this movie? What are we going to see? What is this? And they said, you'll find out, just good. But the thing is this, they gave me an aisle all to myself. So I was in an aisle by myself, and then they were sitting right behind me. And like I was excited that I had an aisle to myself, because I never had that before in a movie. So I thought, okay, this is good. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm about to see, but I did have this little suspicion, like, maybe since I'm sitting here by myself, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
And so the movie started, and like, you immediately knew it was a musical, because right when it started, like in the 2007 one, you're coming up from the clouds and it's giving an eye view of the Baltimore in 1962. And the beat started playing. So I immediately knew it was a musical. I was like, oh, this is a musical. And I was like, oh, this is catchy. And then the second Tracy sang the words, "Good Morning, Baltimore," I was like, oh, wow, like she has a really good voice. And the word and the Baltimore clicked to me, because a few years prior, I developed an interest in Baltimore back when I was 4 years old. When I was little, my all-time favorite character growing up was Barney. And when I was 4 years old, my parents took me to see a Barney live stage show in Baltimore. So after that, I fell in love with Baltimore. And now seeing this movie called Hairspray, I realized what it was called. And when I saw it took place in Baltimore, I was like, oh, wow. Like, because I'd never seen a movie that was set in Baltimore before.
Yeah.
And now knowing that I saw this stage show because of a character I liked when I was a little kid in Baltimore, now watching a movie that's taking place in Baltimore, that was hooking on me really quickly. And the big part that really hooked me was in Good Morning, Baltimore. It's when Tracy's like daydreaming and singing, and it's right where everybody's getting on the bus. And like she's just daydreaming, like someday the world's gonna see me dancing in front of Baltimore, and Baltimore's gonna love me in this. Well, then she starts dancing, but the thing is this, she gets so distracted, she misses the bus, and then of course she's thinking, like, panicking, like, what am I gonna do? Because she knows, like, this, if she's late to school, she's going to be in trouble. And then they showed a garbage truck coming down the street, and then Tracy's going to get its attention, and then before we know it, we're watching the movie and she's singing like on top of the garbage truck. And that really sealed me, because back when I was little, I don't know what reason, but I always loved watching the trash and recycling being collected. So like, every time when I was little, I would be on my porch on trash day, like the times I was home, and it would be like I was tailgating at a football game. Like I would sit there and wait and wait and wait for the trash and recycling to come. And so the minute she got on the garbage truck, I was hooked. And my parents told me as soon as they saw it, they immediately looked at each other and they were like, he's hooked.
Oh, they knew, yeah.
I like that, watching it in theaters, like it made me like want to be on top of that garbage truck with Tracy.
That's cool.
And like I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Oh.
And then, of course, I loved the movie. I loved the songs and the dances in it. While I was watching it in theaters, I was like tapping my foot. And then, like, by the time You Can't Stop the Beat came in, like everybody was clapping and cheering. And the one part everybody was laughing at is when John Travolta came out for the first time as Edna. Like everybody was laughing because he looked so funny. And that was the first time I really saw a man playing a woman. Like I never saw that before. I could tell from the voice when he was walking in, like I knew right away. I was like, that is not a girl, that's a guy.
Okay, so you
and then I saw his look and he looked funny.
And had you ever seen John Travolta in anything yet at that point?
No, that was the first time I saw John Travolta, because I didn't even know about Grease yet at the time.
Oh, okay.
Because I was just starting to like musicals. So like Hairspray was really the first big musical I saw. I did not leave the theater. My parents and I watched it until the very last credit rolled. We did not leave until the last credit rolled. And so then, of course, I was talking about it on the way home. Like I was like, I loved it so much. I was like, this is so great. And like that, and it came to the point where I became a fanatic. I wouldn't stop talking about it.
Yeah.
So then, before long, my parents gave me the soundtrack to the movie. So then, in fall of 2007, I was now in third grade, and every day to school, I would listen to the soundtrack every day on my way to school. And then it came to the point I was like, I need to see the 1988 film.
Yeah.
So then I did see it, and of course, I was a little surprised at first because that one is not a musical,
right?
But I was just such a fanatic on Hairspray. Like I loved it. In fact, there was a time where I would get up and dance in front of my TV with Tracy, like trying to learn all the moves, like the mashed potato, the Madison, the bug. Or the waddle and the twist. And the one I really like in that movie, actually two, when they were at the record store with Motormouth and they were doing this dance called the Bird.
Yeah.
And before I know it, I'm getting up and dancing and I'm like moving my arms like this because that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
And then at the end they were doing the bug and like everybody was like jumping, moving around because that's one of the lyrics. And I was like, that's basically how I'm like when I have bugs on me. So I started doing the dance still. I begged my mom to get me a DVD of the 88 one. And I watched it. But then I was like, okay, so I have the 88 one. When's the 2007 one going to be available? And I was looking up clips online and it said it was going to be available November 20th. And that release date is a bit ironic to my parents. I told my mom it's going to be available on November 20th, but it still is crystal clear to them because November 20th is the day they got married.
Oh,
that was their wedding in 1993.
Oh, that's awesome.
So then every year, like I'm celebrating the DVD release and their anniversary.
Yeah.
Ever since I got the DVD, like both 1988 and 2007, and then live in the years to come, I would watch them every Friday nights that I could.
Oh, yes. I remember you said that. And that is so, I love that so much that it's become that weekly tradition for you to watch it. Now, do you ever alternate which versions you watch? Do you watch all three? Do you?
Out of the three, the one that I watched the most is the 2007 version, because that was the first one I saw.
Yeah.
And then like sometimes like this, based on how late it gets into the night, sometimes like I'll watch the next one like on a Saturday.
Yeah, sure.
Then, like,
okay.
So then like it's usually 2007 live in 88. About a year later after the movie came out. So it came out in July 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And it was now August 2008.
Mm-hmm.
My mom got a phone call from my grandma that the Jewish Community Center was going up to New York to see Hairspray on Broadway. The minute she saw that in the paper, she immediately calls my mom and says it. And my mom immediately was like, we're taking him.
Yeah.
And my grandmother knew about my obsession with Hairspray, because just about every time I spent the night at her house, I would bring the movie up and we would watch it. So I remember that week, because I heard about it, and the minute I heard about it, I was so ecstatic. I was running all over the house, and the bus picked us up. We went up, and the bus dropped us off right at the theater, and Hairspray was at the Neil Simon Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, knowing I'm right in the theater, I'm like this, like, it's like that moment you feel like when you're a kid and like you're looking through the window of a toy store, or you're in the toy store, and like it's that one toy you see like from a distance, and it's like you have to have that toy or else you're going to die. Like that was like the reaction I had. The minute I got off the bus, I immediately got in line. My mom was like, the show doesn't start quite yet.
Okay.
We got there in the morning. And so like we left early in the morning, like around 6:30, 7 o'clock, got there around 10 o'clock. But the show wasn't starting until 2. And so we went and did some things. We went to the Toys R Us in Times Square. That was my first time in that Toys R Us.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. And then we had lunch. And then I said to my mom, is it time yet? Is it time yet? And she said, it's time. So then, of course, I'm like, yes, let's go.
No.
And then, of course, I got in line. We got our tickets, and we had really, really good seats. Like we were just a few rows up from the orchestra.
Oh, fantastic.
So we had really good seats. And like in my head, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm seeing Tracy Turnblad on stage. This is like a dream come true. And then, of course, I bought merchandise. I always buy merchandise when I go see a Broadway show.
Yeah.
But knowing this was Hairspray, now, obviously, out of all the Broadway shows I've seen, since Hairspray is my favorite, that's the one I have the most of. Like the others, I just got a few things.
Sure.
But of course, with being Hairspray, I wanted to get every single thing that was on.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the things I got them. I always get a magnet. I always get a souvenir program, the CD.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I got, my mom was a bit like, are you sure you really want that? And I was like, it's Hairspray. I'm getting it.
Yeah.
Had these mouse pads. I also got a mug. I will say my mother was very gracious that day.
Yeah, it sounds
of course,
like it. That's awesome.
The show was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Who was your Tracy and your Edna?
When I saw the Broadway show, George Wendt was Edna, and Marissa Perry was Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
I was 9 years old at the time. So I did not know who George Wendt was.
Okay.
But my parents and my grandma knew who he was, because they told me he was on a TV show called Cheers, and that was a very successful show. And like this character. Now, I was excited because now going into it, I knew the Broadway show was going to be different than the movie musical, because they always are, because we know stage and film are two completely different things.
I just find it I find it fascinating because you had the opposite experience that I had.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so you had seen the 2007 movie and the 88 film subsequently before you saw the Broadway show. So overall, what was your impression of it, of how it compared?
Well, going into it, I knew the Broadway show was going to be different from the movie version because I know like the Broadway show came out first. Because that was also the first time I got to see the song "Big Dollhouse," like where they're all in jail, because that doesn't.
Yeah, right.
Because that's not in the movie.
Yeah, not even on the soundtrack. No.
Yeah, and I thought it was hilarious. I thought, oh, they dance in jail.
Yeah.
And then another thing that's also not in the 2007 movie is in the Broadway show, Tracy sings a reprise of Good Morning Baltimore.
Right.
And I thought, oh, that's cute. Like, that's cute. So, like, yeah, I would say this. That's when I really discovered, like, each version is different.
Yeah.
And, like, but we said, but, you know, like, and they're different because, you know, the times and how they saw it. Because, like, you know, it started as a cult film, then became a Broadway musical, and then a movie musical. At that time. So, of course, you know, I was at the edge of my seat the entire show. And then, of course, when it came for a curtain call, I immediately stood up and was clapping. And at the curtain call, Tracy is telling everybody to dance.
Yes.
And of course, like right away, as soon as she says that, I'm dancing, and then they're doing a "You Can't Stop the Beat."
Right.
And then, of course, I'm clapping, cheering, and my mom said, "What do you think?" And I was just so excited. I was like, "I love it! I love it!" In 2016,
yes,
I was now a junior in high school. And it was right at the end of the year. The band and select choir at my high school we were taking a 2-day trip. The first day we did Washington, D.C., and then the second day we did Baltimore. And of course, you know, being the Hairspray fanatic I was so excited to go to Baltimore. And I also hadn't been to Baltimore in a while. And then we went and saw a performance that the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra was doing. And through the program, I looked, and there was going to be a Hairspray concert.
Right.
And I saw that, and all my friends were like pointing at me. They were like, "Mitch, do you see this?" I was like, "Yes, I do." In fact, the band director also informed my mom about it. And one of the days it was playing was on my birthday.
Oh.
And it was my 17th birthday. We went up, saw the show, and right as we were walking in, we saw the parking, and there was a cone, and it said reserved parking for John Waters. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Like, he narrated everything. Like how, like, he said, like, how there was a joke shop in Hairspray. There was a little joke store down the street.
Yeah. I loved all that.
It was so cool. And then also in 2016, that's when Hairspray Live aired on NBC.
Which I remember in that concert, him mentioning that it was going to be this NBC event.
He did mention that, yes, I remember. So then the day finally came, and I asked my mom to have a viewing party.
Oh, fantastic.
And I had my friends over. At that point, we had the main TV on in our family room. We also had a TV in the kitchen at that time, and me and my friends were down in the basement. So we had those TVs on. And of course, everybody brought snacks. One of them, she liked to bake. She made cupcakes like Tracy. So like she had blue icing, then she took white chocolate, dipped it in light red food coloring for her bow.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so we all had a lot of fun.
That's so cool. I wish I would have done something like that, but I remember I was like this close to the TV the entire time just watching it. So if I had a viewing party, nobody would be able to see because my head.
So now I've seen 4 versions. Like, I never thought there would be a 4th version.
Yeah, it especially that soon. I remember every time they did one of those NBC live events, I remember being like, well, hopefully they do Hairspray eventually, especially with Craig and Neil being producers. I was like, maybe they'll do it. But I just, because they were doing classics, you know, like older classics, Sound of Music, Peter Pan, The Wiz.
Yeah.
And
because Hairspray Live, that was only 9 years after the 2007.
Yeah, and that's why I was just like, I think it might be too soon. And then when they announced Hairspray, I was like, a miracle.
Yep, I was too.
Yeah. Do we want to tell our listeners about how we met?
Yes. The original Hairspray girls on Broadway, Marissa Jarrett Winokur, Carrie Butler, and Laura Bell Bundy, they were the original Tracy, Penny, and Amber on Broadway. And they were reuniting for a concert. And it was in McLean, Virginia.
Yes.
And
which was one of the stops.
Yeah, it was one of the stops.
Pre their off-Broadway run. They had about 4 stops that they made before they went to New World Stages and did it there.
And during that, I got to go up on stage with them and be Link during I Can Hear the Bells, which was so cool. I've never been on stage with celebrities before. And that's where you and I met.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started talking about Hairspray and all that, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I recognized you because you followed my Hairspray history Instagram page, and you were always one of the ones that would like everything, and I I recognized your face with your picture.
Did you recognize me like when I was in the audience, or wasn't until I got up on stage?
You know what? I saw you in the lobby, and I was like, I think this is the kid, but I wasn't sure if it was you or not, or if and so I didn't say anything. And then when you went up on stage and you said your name was Mitch, I was like, that is him. And then I had to introduce myself because I haven't really posted my face much on my Hairspray because I like to keep it Hairspray related. So you wouldn't have probably recognized me, but I had to say something, and I did take photos of you that we could put here.
Did, and then you also sent me some videos of it.
Because once you said your name, I was just like, oh, I have to take some photos just in case he needs somebody, needs photos. And obviously I knew where to reach you as well. We got to meet there, and we got to meet all 3 of the girls, which was awesome. And that whole concert was incredible. It was so much fun. So much fun. Yeah. So well written.
And that's where I got to learn more about Hairspray as
well. Yeah, they threw in a lot of really cool behind the scenes part of the development process and stuff like that. Yeah, just so much fun. And then how they tied it in with, it's called Mama, I'm a Big Girl Now, obviously a reference to the song. But then it's about them being older now and being mothers themselves. All 3 of them are mothers. And just it was so much fun, and obviously it was great to meet you there. And then we started talking and developing this idea for this podcast, and here we are. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, it's great to be here to start this process finally.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we are very, very excited to be here doing this. Every episode, at least to start us off, we're going to discuss each version of Hairspray. I think we're going to start with a little bit of a backstory of John Waters and the Buddy Dean show, moving into the 88 film, the readings for the Broadway show, into the Broadway show, the 2007 movie, everything. Because, both of us are just fanatics, nerds that we just we love to absorb.
I always have my nerdy side of Hairspray with me, and my friends are always saying, "Okay, so what happens then? What happens here?" One time, my mom said, "No, this happens first." I'm like, "No, this happens first, then this happens." And my dad even it came to the point where my dad was like, "Are you really asking him this?" Yeah, because he was like, he knows that story upside down, inside out, all around. And
I think we've sort of covered everything. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to this first episode of Behind the Spritz. We're going to start diving into the behind the scenes, and we have some cool things planned. So we hope you'll join us.
We'll see you here.
See you then. Thanks.